Hello, it is Friday the 1st of December, and in this video I'm going to have a look at the most recent Lotto result, see if I can find any possible reasons why these numbers came out, see if they were most outstanding in any way, and I'm also going to try and make some predictions based on what I can find, or what I have been finding lately when analysing the Lotto results statistically. The most recent draw was draw 2289, and it was Machine Lancelot set of balls number 4. So, if we only go back as far as draw 2288, and if we see where the winning numbers were on the chart, then we should find whatever ways in which they were most outstanding. Now, this is a chart showing where the numbers are going on the recent trend as far back as draw 2066, when the numbers went up to 59. That's what the chart looks like, and that's where the winning numbers were on that chart. So they don't look very outstanding on that chart. So if we look at all machines and all sets of balls used since draw 2066, and we see where the winning numbers were on that chart, that's where they were. Again, not exactly most outstanding. It was Machine Lancelot set of balls 4. So if we focus specifically on set of balls 4 and see where the winning numbers were on that chart, now on this chart you can see that 32 was one of the most overdue, but not the most overdue, only one of 4 most overdue. So not exactly the most outstanding. Now if we look at a chart for Machine Lancelot, let's see where the numbers were on this chart. Okay, now let's see where the winning numbers were on this chart. That's where they were. Again, not the most outstanding. So if we narrow it down to specifically Lancelot and set of balls number 4, we get a chart that's very small. So if we were to look at the full draw history, so we get a bigger chart, then what we find is that 8 of the most recently added numbers had never been drawn yet, and that includes one that came out in this draw. And you can see, well, let's see where the winning numbers are. So we've got 3 of the winning numbers are sort of on this axis, which is where the edge of the chart is, or at least near to it, and the others are kind of down there. So none of the numbers are particularly outstanding. Now if I look at a chart for numbers paired with 32, then what we find on this chart is that now we've got one number that is the most outstanding to be paired with 32, and that is 42 because it's nearest to the top right corner, which means it's the most overdue for its frequency to occur with 32. And let's see where the other winning numbers were on that chart. Okay, that's where they were. Now if I look at all the machines that are in the current trend and numbers paired with 32, let's see where the winning numbers were. So not very outstanding. Okay, let's just look at set balls number 4 then. And see where the winning numbers were. So not very outstanding. So now I would have to look at each individual number to find where the other numbers were paired with that number, to try and find the ways in which they were outstanding, either with the machines and sets of balls that are in the current trend, or with the set of balls that was used, or with the machine that was used. And usually when I do that, I find that usually more than half of the numbers were most outstanding in some way, usually paired with each other, or basically for that machine or that set of balls that was used. However, I'm not going to do that in this video because it takes a long time and it doesn't seem to be very relevant, because that's focusing too much on the past, when what we should be doing is focusing on the future, because we want to predict winning combinations. Now I've made quite a lot of predictions in these videos because I've sort of been trying to make winning predictions just for the entertainment value of it, just so that when the winning numbers do come out, then I can say, see, I told you so, told you those numbers had come out. Now if you've been watching these videos lately, then you'll know that in September I won about £1,200, and then since then I've not really won anything. In September, when I won some money, then that kind of, it gave me the encouragement and motivation and the enthusiasm to start making more of these videos. But since I've been doing that and not winning, I've just been getting criticised and people are doubting me, and I'm losing the enthusiasm to do it. So what I need is a win. I need to win some money. Now I've got a perfectly good little strategy set out here. Now if you look at this part of this sheet, then this is the strategy for winning on a 1 number hot pick. And basically You pick one number, or should I say one line, which is a one number hot pick. You pay £1 to try and win £6. If you win, you've made a £5 profit. If your number doesn't come out, you play it again and again and again. If it still doesn't come out after 6 draws, you start putting £2 on. And you basically put just enough lines on to make sure that if it does come out, the amount that you win will cover your losses and you'll make a profit. Now, on average, each number should come out once every 10 draws, because there's 6 main numbers drawn out of 59 numbers. If you divide 59 by 6, it's roughly 10. Now, if you look at the chart for the recent history and the current trend, in fact, if we look at all machines and all sets of balls, well, the ones that are in use or have been in use since the numbers went up to 59, then we get this chart. And the most recent draw was 2289, and there are some numbers that have not been out since draw 2257, which is like 30 draws ago, more than 30. So they're already past the average mark. So if you pick the most overdue numbers that have not been out for 32 draws, I mean, if you were using this strategy straight away, as soon as a number come out, and then you start using this strategy on the next draw, then after 32 draws you'd be having to put £375 on every draw to cover your losses and still make a profit. But you don't have to do that, because these numbers have already not been drawn for 32 draws. So if we're using this strategy, we're not starting at this point, we're starting here. See? So if those numbers don't come out for another 10 draws, you're still only going to have to bet £4. You still make a profit. See, it's quite unlikely that a number would have a streak of non-occurrences that goes on for much longer than that. And it's a simple mathematical reason, and the reason is because if you take the total number of draws and you divide, so if you take the total number of draws and we take the gap between occurrences, then we can work out the probability of that gap between occurrences occurring. So like if there's 2,000 draws, then let's say a gap of 50 draws between occurrences, the probability of that is going to be 2,000 divided by 50. So you got a 1 in 40 chance. I mean, what I'm saying is that a gap of 50 draws between occurrences can only occur 40 times. So that's what I'm saying. Now, if there's 2,000 draws and the gap between occurrences is only 10, then there can be a total of 200 times. You can have a gap between occurrences of 10. That can happen 200 times. So basically, it means that it's 5 times more likely that the gap between occurrences will be 10 as opposed to being 50. So you've got 5 times the probability of that happening as that. So it's obviously a mathematical reason. So that's why the gap between occurrences is more likely to be a small gap than a large gap. So that means that basically the further you get down this strategy, the more likely the number is to come out. So when we're starting with a number that's as overdue as this, these numbers are more likely to come out than any of these numbers further down the chart. So that's the mathematical reason. Now, on the other hand, the numbers that are more frequent are more likely to come out just because they are more frequent as well. So the numbers that are closest to that top right corner are the ones that are most likely to come out. So if I was looking at this chart, I'd probably pick this number because it's nearest to the top right corner. But I know that in the next draw they're going to use either Guinevere or Lancelot and sets of balls 1, 2, 3 or 4. So that means that if I look at this chart, which summarises the recent draw history for those 2 machines and 4 sets of balls, then the numbers that are most likely to come out, the ones that are closest to top right corner, the ones that are most overdue or most frequent, are these numbers. The ones that are on the edge of the chart, which is the numbers that are on this line that goes from top left to bottom right, that's the edge of the chart. The numbers that are on the edge are the ones that are most outstanding, that are most probable to be drawn. Now, what I did is I looked at all machines, all sets of balls, and the full draw history to produce this chart. And if we look at this chart, then what we find is that the numbers are more spread out. But then what I did after that is I looked at numbers paired with each other, and I found that on each chart for each number there are outstanding numbers that are due to be paired with each number. And then I made this chart. Now I made this one manually. This doesn't come up automatically. This is just numbers what I've typed in without any formulas. And these are the most outstanding pairs at the moment. The ones that I've found to be most outstanding. So the most overdue pair at the moment is 32 and 19, which hasn't been drawn since draw 1634. We're currently on draw 2289. Which means that that pair hasn't come out for 655 draws. So that means that if we were using this strategy, then when we get down to line 655, let's see how much we'd have to bet to cover his losses using this strategy. Okay, now using this strategy, after 655 draws, we would be having to bet £40,000 just to cover his losses and make a profit of 39,000, which is ridiculous. So this strategy is kind of ridiculous, because basically, if I were having to put 20 lines on just to cover my losses, that'd be my limit, because you can only afford to spend so much money on the lottery in each draw, and once you get past like £20, then it becomes too much. That's more than what I could afford anyway. In fact, my limit at the moment, with it being the run up to Christmas and I've got Christmas shopping to do, would be more like a £5. But these pairs haven't come out for so long that we're already right down here. So we don't have to bet 40,000 to win 2 million, to cover losses of 2 million. Because basically we're starting from draw 1. Starting from up here. And the average gap between occurrences of two numbers is 114. At which point we'd be betting £4. So you can afford it. That's the odds on winning on a 2-number optic. When I were looking at the current trend, and I was looking at numbers paired with each other, then what I found was number 45 was the most overdue a couple of draws ago, and I was betting that 45 and 2 would come out together. Now the chances of any individual number occurring again, well, we can work it out by looking at a chart that summarises the frequency and recency of not the numbers themselves, but the gaps between occurrences of those numbers. Now this is a chart similar to this chart, the chart for the individual numbers or numbers paired with number 2. But the difference is These are not numbers, these are gaps between occurrences. And the same principle applies, the same principle being that the more frequent it occurs, obviously, if it's more frequent, it's more likely to occur again. And if it's not happened for a long time, then there's a mathematical reason why it's more likely to happen again. And at the moment, a gap between occurrences of 3 draws seems to be the most overdue for its frequency, and its occurrences of number 2. So at the moment, if number 2 come out in the next draw, the gap between occurrences would be 3, and 3 is the most overdue gap between occurrences in terms of its frequency. So I think that in the next draw, number 2 is going to come out, and I also think that 45 is going to come out. Now if we look at a gap chart for 45, let's see what we find. Oh my god, look at that. The current gap is 2, and a gap of occurrences of 2 is the most overdue for its frequency. Now I know that it's probably giving you a massive headache to try and understand this idea of putting the gaps between occurrences on a chart that measures the frequency of the gap and the recency of the gap and plots it on a chart. And I can also tell you that the laws of averages dictate that a gap of 1 should occur twice as many times as a gap of 2, 3 times as many as a gap of 3, 4 times as many as a gap of 4, and so on and so on, because you can fit more gaps of 1 into any number of draws than 2, more gaps of 2 than 3, so really 2 should be in front of 3 on this chart, but because it's random, that doesn't happen. Instead they're scattered about, so there's kind of an order to it. You can see the smaller numbers are on the left, the larger numbers are on the right, which is how it should be, but it's not a nice even steady curve. It's not like a nice tangent like it should be, and because it's not, we can predict that it should be. So I'm quite certain, well, I wouldn't say certain, but hopeful, should I say, that in the next draw 2290, that in draw 2290, I think that the conditions are perfect for this pair of numbers to be drawn together on the lottery. The conditions are just right. When looking at the gap charts, looking at the charts, looking at the current trend, taking all this information into account, looking at the big picture, the small picture, basically everything I've been looking at seems to point to that pair of numbers being drawn sometime very soon, even though they've been out recently. It's all because of the gaps between occurrences. So I think for the next draw this Saturday, 2 and 45 is a really good 2 number up pick. Now that's basically all I'm going to tell you in this video. I don't want to make any more predictions. I don't want to make too many predictions all at once. But basically, if those two numbers come out in the next draw after making this video, then that's going to really boost my enthusiasm for making more videos like this in the future. And I could really do with some money. So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for 245. And that concludes this video. I'm sorry that it's gone on for so long, but I thought it was quite interesting and worth taking the time to show you. So, bye for now. Subscribe for the next video, and good luck in the next draw.